what's your story? How did you start this?
I'm interviewing you.
I know, but I like to interview people as well.
Well, I'm not interviewing me. I'm here to interview people. That's my work. I travel the country interviewing people about their things with COVID, and I share it with the world against the narrative. And if you want my story, it's all over my page. And so, and I've got a lot of people to interview. So if you want to interview me, get to the back of the queue. How are we good? We ready to go? So you're a lawyer. Why are you down here at a resistance meeting? Because there's very few lawyers that we know are with the resistance, especially in Melbourne.
I was born and lived in a communist country.
Which one?
Communist Romania. And
Romania.
We escaped.
Yeah.
We were persecuted. We were on food rations. We had no freedom of movement, no freedom of speech, no freedom of association. We were accepted as political refugees into Australia. We flew in, spent some time in Villawood Detention Centre, and then became Australian citizens. Worked hard all my life, studied hard, studied psychology and law and all the rest of it. I love this country. I've been involved in politics and law for the last 15 years in Canberra. Absolutely appalled what was going on in March 2020, and as a legal academic teaching law at university, wrote my first article. This is a man-made virus. They're using it to take away your freedoms and rights and implement communism. I know because I've lived it. I tried to warn Australians in the first
Can I ask what happened?
Lockdown.
What happened? What was the reaction to that?
I was called a conspiracy theorist on every national channel for 2 weeks.
Okay, now I know who you are.
Disendorsed from the Liberal Party, right?
Yeah, now I know.
So what does this tell us? Our violations of the freedom of speech started back in 2016 when they amended Section 18C of the anti-discrimination laws federally, right? So this has been a long time coming. Australians fell asleep at the wheel. They were totally disengaged from the political process, didn't understand it, didn't get involved. And guess what? We no longer have state sovereignty. We no longer own our own country.
Can I tell you, some of the most strongest freedom fighters I meet are Romanians. Dr. Boris. I'm interviewing another one tonight, Cosette. She's from Sale. Exactly. I don't know how old you are. I think she's in her early 50s. So strong.
Yep.
And she said she was growing up in Romania, and she said to her parents, "Why do we live like this?"
That's right.
And why do we put up with this? She says, "What else can you do?" And so she fought and got here.
That's right.
And now she's saying it's coming here. You must fight.
That's right. That's right.
And no one in Canberra would listen.
So living on food rations and not having a voice, not having rights, is not living. But people who live under those circumstances don't understand they have rights. The opposite is the same. When people have rights and freedoms for so long, they don't realise it, they don't appreciate it, take it for granted. What's fighting for? So the minds of Australians need to shift right now. I've heard recently on social media, people are saying don't vote in this federal election because you're contracting with the government. That is the worst advice I've ever heard. If we check out of this federal election and not vote as a protest, who do you think is going to get back into Parliament? We need to fight for every single vote. In fact, we need scrutineers at every polling booth, because it's at that point where human error, a big oopsie occurs, and I've seen it firsthand. All these votes are put into the wrong pile for vexatious reasons. Now we need scrutineers in every polling booth. We need people getting behind freedom parties. And we need to be watchmen, guardians at the door of our not only freedoms but state sovereignty. I've been campaigning against what the Chinese Communist Party are doing to people since.
You think China's behind it?
I think that there is so much corruption in this world. The communist agenda has not gone away since its inception from Karl Marx. Why? Because this ideology espouses that there is no God, government is God.
And they closed our churches.
You cannot own anything. You work for the government.
Be happy.
and the government will own you, and you'll be all right. You'll have everything you need. It's a lowest common denominator living. That's not how we're created to live. We're created as creative beings, right? We aspire to gain knowledge and to innovate and create. That's who we are.
The whole country has been built on innovation and people fixing problems for themselves, adapting. It's built by entrepreneurs, not sheep waiting to be led. From my side, I was a playwright. I was actually living as an independent playwright, writing my own plays, paying my actors proper wages. I was literally the only one in the country who'd managed to do it. And I was on the border of even greater and greater success. And once they said you had to segregate audiences, I simply said, I'm not segregating my audiences, not now, not ever.
Wow.
And so I was basically cancelled.
Yep.
And so I set up this to defend free speech because I love free speech.
Yep.
And I didn't expect it to go anywhere. I was just angry. I'm an angry old man. And now I'm here. So that's all I do. And all I do with what's left of my life now, because I'm sick of people interviewing the same people over and over again because no one's listening, I thought, why don't I go out, I'll travel Australia and I'll interview everyone I can to show what Australians really think, to balance the narrative, because their narrative is insane.
It's controlled. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Every day I hear people's stories because I'm helping them. If people are interested, on my website I've got resources for parents. We did a cease and desist campaign to principals in schools to protect our children.
Sorry, we just caught this. We're going to verify it. An 18-year-old girl in Perth went in for a minor operation, under anaesthetic, was vaccinated against her will. That's the story we're trying to verify today. We've got a number, so we might be in touch. So if that's true, we've just gone to a whole new level.
Unfortunately, Section 158 of the Public Health Act of Western Australia's Public Health Act states that a doctor can do that lawfully. It's written in our legislation here in Western Australia that a doctor can do that. So we're in a state where legislation is poorly written. It violates the rights of physical bodily autonomy, and of course it violates our rights to run our business how we wish, right? So that's economic freedoms. And these laws are being absolutely abused right now. Mark McGowan has violated so many sections of the Constitution. He should never have been able to stop trade and commerce between states. It's not within his jurisdictions to stop me from seeing my family on the other side of the country. And that is a pure violation. Our Prime Minister should have stepped in a long time ago. He did not. He's shown his true colours. The Australian people need to make a stand. I've been training people on how to go into councils, local councils, and push back on the economic disaster that's been occurring in our communities.
3 people doing that just today.
Good.
One Romanian from Sale, one from Melbourne and one from here.
Good.
And 3 women, and how they're taking on the council.
Good.
And then using the stories that I've heard on the road. I mean, you're welcome to come on board if you want. Welcome. Because I'm seeing hate speech in the paper. Absolute hate speech. It's abhorrent.
Yeah. So we started that movement here back in November, just with
You're the pro-choice movement.
I'm not a movement. I'm just an individual.
I've heard people saying that pro-choice something. Yeah.
So we started that push to present evidence at the councils back in November last year, and there's been momentum growing. But unfortunately, because Australians checked out of politics for all of their lives, they don't understand these processes. So it is an awakening. It is about education and resourcing, but it's empowering. You know, the greatest heartbreak that I had over these last 2 years, because I've been personally affected by all this, right? I've seen horrific stories. I've heard heartbreaking stories from people, but the thing that broke my heart the most is that March 2020, when I wrote my article, tried to warn people, Australians just gave up their freedoms like this. They were willing to give it up without understanding the cost of what they were doing. They not only gave up their freedoms and rights, they gave up their free autonomy to think for themselves, to make choices. And they've lost that. And it's almost like we need to encourage them to find that again. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Just get jabbed. I had people telling me in the theatre world turned out to be Hitler Youth. The theatre world was horrendous. They segregated the actors, attacked anyone who wasn't getting vaccinated. There was hate pages against me for my stance. But one thing they were saying, which just baffled me, was, I don't mind giving up my freedom now because the government will fix it and then give it back to me. Have you ever in history heard of a government doing it?
We need to be reading our history textbooks properly. We need to understand what Stalin, what Ceausescu, who I lived under, did, how they thought, the ideology of communism, how absolutely toxic it is.
So you feel that this is a form of communism that's happening now? Because that's what a lot of Eastern Europeans tell me it is.
Mark McGowan has shown that he does not respect our Australian Constitution. Mark McGowan has shown that he does not respect our Prime Minister. He's done his own thing. State laws are subject to federal laws. Any inconsistency needs to be struck out. That's not occurred. His state-based laws, Emergency Management Act and Public Health Act, are absolutely inconsistent with the Constitution, the Biosecurity Act, the Privacy Act, and discrimination laws, as well as employment laws. And I know because I work in this space every day, and people are suffering every day. But for a Premier to continue operating while so many individuals' rights and freedoms are violated, that he's violated our Constitution and federal laws, he needs to be stood down.
Is there any reason why you think the West Australian people are not rising up? Because that's what baffles me, and everyone I meet baffles them. Why instead they're attacking us?
Courage. If you're not used to fighting for your life, fighting for a piece of bread. Under communism, we had a ticket. It was food ration ticket. That little ticket bought you a loaf of bread for the family for the week. When you are starving like that, and you're living in minus sometimes 40 degrees, minus 10 degrees, you have motivation to fight. Will it take that to wake Western Australians up and realise? I mean, this government has forcibly, coercively jabbed their children, taken their jobs, and they're still not angry enough. I don't understand it.
The only thing they've fought for is toilet paper.